Right.
And we're back now with more from Senators Graham and Warner. Senator Warner, you heard Lindsey Graham just now talking about some of the things Republicans think they could do. What do you think has to happen here?
Well, I do think we need presidential leadership, and I think President Obama has provided that. He laid out a plan that took $4 trillion off of the debt amount. It was, I think, a balanced approach. It probably won't be the exact framework. I actually do think the Simpson-Bowles or Gang of Six framework is closer to, and he has endorsed the Gang of Six efforts. But it's going to take all of us shoulder to the wheel. That includes folks outside of Washington as well. I mean, we need voters to demand this or fire us all, because this is our first responsibility. We're going to need the business community in this fight as well. Too often the business community in the last debacle kind of sat out that debate. We need them shoulder to the wheel as well, because nothing would be more devastating to the economic recovery and to any business than to have an interest rate spike that would come about if the rest of the world said, hey, we're not sure America's going to get its fiscal act together.
What do you think about what happened at the G8 when you had all these economic leaders of the world meeting up there at Camp David, Senator Graham? Because up until now, they pretty much stressed austerity as the way out of this debt crisis that is sweeping across Europe. But yesterday, they seemed to shift a little bit and said maybe the way out of this is more jobs, creating more jobs, and basically talked about more spending, which is what President Obama has been more or less suggesting. You think they took a good step here, or how do you think what the impact of that's going to be?
Well, I think the European economies are doomed if they keep going down the road of higher taxes on people who try to create jobs and more federal spending in Europe. I think they need to do what Mark and the Gang of Six have tried to do. Control spending. We're at 25% of our GDP in spending. We need to be at 18%. But take the tax code and flatten it, do away with all these deductions and exemptions and lower rates. Europe can't achieve growth because the governments over there are too large and they're trying to increase taxes and be austere. What they need to do is do what we're trying to do, is flatten their tax codes so more jobs can be created, control government spending, and work on their entitlement programs that are out of control. In America, we got to tell the American people that Bob Schieffer, Lindsey Graham, and Mark Warner need to pay the full cost of the Medicare premiums. We need to tell younger workers, you got to work past 65 or we're going to lose our nation. We got to adjust the age on Medicare and Social Security, and we got to means test benefits. And if Europe doesn't do that, they're going to go down the tubes. And if they keep trying to have growth of jobs by growing government, they're never going to get the job growth they need. They need to change their tax system to make it more entrepreneurial, and so do we.
Well, what I'd simply say is, while I agree with Lindsey, we need a plan. It's going to have to reform our tax code and reform our entitlement programs. You can't cut and tax your way only. You've got to have a growing economy. And candidly, that's what I've been really concerned with, at least the Ryan and Romney budget plans. They would take the domestic part of our federal spending, which is now about 16%, and cut it down to less than 5% over a period of time. I don't know any nation in the world that can compete in the 21st century if they spend less than 5% of their dollars educating their workforce, building their infrastructure, and creating the research and development that's going to create intellectual capital. There's no other country in the world that would have that kind of plan.
All right. Well, I want to thank both of you. And